Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. Last week, we talked about the tariff war or the trade war between the United States and the Communist China. And we also talked about the purpose of the three layers of the goals that Beijing tries to achieve this time. And I pointed out that contrary to most people's belief or most people's perception, we all know that even Beijing knows that they're inferior to the United States in many aspects, be them economy, technology, military, or diplomatic influence, and so on and so forth. They are indeed inferior to the United States, but they don't think they will lose in this tariff war. And why is that? So we try to analyze it by looking into their perception of how they tackled the United States in the past history. And we mentioned a few cases. We briefly reviewed the cases of the Korean War. The Korean War in the 1950s. In the end, they ended up with a truce, and the United States and the Communist China withheld their troops on either side of the 38th parallel. So it was a truth, and in the end, Beijing didn't think that they lose. They even think they got an upper hand. If they can force the United States to stop fighting, and that's a victory for them. And that's the first case. The second case is the Vietnam War in the 60s through the 70s. They used the strategy. They used Vietnam as the low-ranking horse, as we mentioned the so-called the horse race games a couple of thousand years ago, and executed by Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War. Beijing used this war to wear out the United States, and to a certain extent, they achieved their goals. United States pulled out from Vietnam, and then North Vietnam invaded the South and unified the South, unified the entire Vietnam, and the United States was squeezed out of Vietnam. So they won. And that's the second case. The third case is the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Strangely enough, Communist China used this opportunity to improve their relations, actually to reestablish their relations with the United States. And then they even reached a détente, or you can call it a rapprochement. They signed a Shanghai communique in 1972. It not only began the process of normalization of the relations between the two countries, between Beijing and Washington, and then they even persuaded the United States to help them out, to improve their military, improve their technology, improve their economy, and so on and so forth. And I even brought this up. I said, don't forget, China was in the middle of the Cultural Revolution, and they can still achieve that. They even entered into the United Nations. They kicked Taiwan out. They kicked the Republic of China out. They're the sole legitimate government representing China in the United Nations, the family of the world. So they thought that they won again. And that's a third case. The fourth case is Deng Xiaoping's reform, or reform and opening up to the outside world. And the United States went out of its way to help China out and to improve its, again, economy, technology, military, and so on and so forth. The United States was thinking, deep down inside, they were thinking, perhaps through the development of China's economy, China will gradually and eventually embark on the path of democratization. That's the part of the strategic intention designed by the United States. But somehow the results disappoint them. China did not democratize and hasn't democratized yet, not until now. But China has become very strong, much stronger than it was before. It's strong in economy, in technology, and even in military. So Beijing thinks they has won again. That's the fourth case. The fifth case we brought up last time was the Tiananmen massacre. It was a tragedy, and everybody knows about it. And the United States was so indignant, they almost severed the diplomatic ties with Beijing, but they decided not to do that eventually. And they imposed a sanction against China, against Communist China. But somehow they have to lift it because of the Iraq war against Kuwait. And the United States unilaterally lifted this sanction against Beijing. So in all these 5 cases, looking back, China thinks they did not make any concessions. All the concessions were made by the United States on their side. So I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's right, and that's correct. So, so if you're a Beijing or you're a Chinese under the rule of Communist Party, what would you think? You'll think that we're so powerful, we're so good in strategy and so on and so forth. So it's very possible for us to defeat the United States this time again. So this is a brief recap of what we talked about last time. Let's continue from there. Remember what happened to the Tiananmen massacre in East Europe and in the Soviet Union? In between 1989 through 1991, in a span of 3 years' time, 10 communist regimes collapsed, starting from Poland, Hungary, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, and the last one, Mongolia. In a matter of 3 years, 10 communist regimes collapsed. But the very beginning of the whole issue, of the whole event, was the Tiananmen massacre. But Communist China survived. So almost the entire Soviet bloc perished, but Communist China survived. So they thought, we made it through. We're good. Not only that we did not perish, we did not lose. So you cannot say that they won again, but they did not lose. That's how they saw it. And they learned a heavy lesson, or learned a very cruel lesson from this 3-year experience. And they tried to strengthen themselves thereafter. But we're going to talk about that later. So that's case number 6. Case number 7, let's go back a little bit. Remember the 3 communiques between the 2 countries, between Washington and Beijing. First one is 1972, the Shanghai Communique. Second one is the communique which established the official diplomatic relations between the 2 countries in 1979. And the third one is what we call the August 17 communique, dictating the arms sales to Taiwan, signed by President Reagan in 1982. If you scrutinize the contents and the process of the signing of these 3 communiques, you'll find one thing. Beijing doesn't think that they lose anything at all. Or perhaps I should put it this way. Beijing doesn't think that they make any concession out of these 3 communiques. All the concessions, again, in their eyes, were made by the United States, by the part of the United States. They did not make any concessions, but they got 3 communiques with the United States. And that's a big victory. Actually, 3 big victories for them. So now, in their eyes, or in their mind, they think, if I can deceive 3 presidents from the United States, why can't I deceive the 4th one? So the 4th communique is what they're having in mind. We'll talk about that later on. And that's case number 7. Case number 8 is the trade war. The trade war 1.0, starting in 2018 in President Trump's first term, first presidency. Beginning as a tariff war, then the tariff war became a change of strategy, a change of national grand strategy, at least on Trump's side. Trump, actually we can say this, he single-handedly altered the United States policy to remain in China, a policy of 40 years, from cooperation to competition and even to confrontation. We mentioned this before. China was inferior even back then, and the United States was much stronger. So how could they handle this tariff war without losing anything? But they managed, Beijing managed to steer through the whole process. They adopted a dilatory strategy, or a stalling strategy, and then they tear up the accord in the first time, and then it began the trade war, a tit-for-tat war between the 2 countries. Although in the end they signed a pact or an accord but they did not fulfill it. They did not even want to implement it intentionally. So they eventually, how could we say this? They eventually ended up in fulfilling 58% of the entire deal. And then what happened? There came the COVID-19, and which hurt the United States economy bad, and which was partially the reason that Trump did not get a second term. So in the eyes of Beijing, this time, they did not lose again. Actually, they would say, we won. Not only we did not fulfill the accord, we did not do what Trump wanted us to do, and he got kicked out of the White House. So we won again. And that's case number 8. So see what I mean? In their eyes, they did not lose. And Trump got kicked out of the White House, the Oval Office. And they think they won the tariff war against Trump. And that's their conclusion. Remember, everybody thinks that their Communist China is inferior to the United States in almost all the respects, but they could still struggle against the United States using their jargon. They can struggle against the United States, and they can still get the upper hand. And that's case number 8. Case number 9 happened in early August 2022. Remember Pelosi's visit to Taiwan? The Speaker of the House of the United States, Pelosi visited Taiwan from August the 2nd to the 3rd, and then she left. Remember what happened to Taiwan after Pelosi left Taiwan. China launched a full-scale military drill or exercise against Taiwan. They dispatched dozens and dozens of warships surrounding Taiwan. They dispatched all kinds of airplanes, jet fighters, bombers, and everything surrounding Taiwan. They shot 8 to 11 missiles surrounding Taiwan just to intimidate Taiwan and to show its strength or show its muscle against the United States, just to show its anger. United States, well, they did not back down. They actually sent out 3 aircraft carriers, USS Ronald Reagan, USS Tripoli, USS America, and to the east side of Taiwan, in between Japan and Taiwan, and in between Taiwan and the Philippines. So it's a showdown. The showdown on the American side, and the showdown on the Chinese Communist side. It's a what we call a tacit diplomacy. We just want to make the point. The United States want to make the point, and Communist China want to make their point. So they show their muscle on their own side, but there's no actual exchange of fires and no actual confrontation. That's a show of force. So again, in the eyes of Beijing, they did not lose. At least they got even with the United States. And that's case number 9. And then in the case of the Ukraine war, as we mentioned before, this is an excellent opportunity for Beijing, and it's an excellent lesson for them to learn. Their strategy, again, is using Ukraine as the low-ranking horse to wear out the top-ranking horses, the United States, Russia, and even the European countries. And they achieved their goal to a certain extent. Everybody knows it. So for Beijing, now people are taking eyes off me, and you're all paying attention to Ukraine, to what happened to Ukraine. I even help out the war. I helped President Putin now. I helped him to fight the war. I helped him to prolong the war. And I'm actually killing many birds with one stone. I weaken the United States, weaken European countries, and I even weaken Russia. So again, people pay less attention to me, and this is a window of opportunity for me. Let me seize the opportunity first to strengthen myself and to make some preparations for things to come. I make preparations in many aspects. I stockpile food, grains, all kinds of agricultural produces, wheat, barley, corn, and soybeans, and so on and so forth. And I have bought much gold, and I stash them away. And I even stash a good amount of foreign reserve just in case I need it sometime. And I even get hold of some American assets just in case I need it. So their preparation for war is real. And like I said, their preparation for war has both sides, a defensive side and an offensive side. And this time, when a tariff war comes along, and they think their preparation for the war has paid off. So again, by now, you should be able to understand what I'm talking about. When Communist China reviewed their history to struggle against the United States, like using their jargon, the confrontational experience against the United States, they think that they can win. They have good tactics, and they have made preparations, although that was for the COVID and or for whatever you call it. But anyway, it pays off this time. So this time, again, they're going to adopt the dilatory strategy or the stalling strategy again with the United States, and to prolong the process of negotiation between them and the United States and see how people will react around the world. And they'll decide what to do next. They think the inflation in the United States will rise and will cause people to feel unhappy about it. And Democrats will probably rise up against Trump, or other sectors of the society will rise up against Trump. And that's exactly what happened in American society. So they think this is good for them. And what they're waiting for is they try to stall the process of negotiation until the midterm re-election of the United States Congress, the Senate and the House of the Representatives, and see how it goes. So that's their strategy by now. So looking ahead, they think they still stand a chance to win, and to win big. That's what I said at the very beginning. Because in their eyes, there's so many contradictions inside the United States, in the United States society. Remember, they think in a very dialectical term. So like I said, they're very good to detect the opponent's weakness or the opponent's Achilles heel. They know where the contradictions are. They know how to utilize the contradiction. They know how to enlarge the contradiction inside the opponent's camp so that they could make the best use of it. For instance, the party struggle between the Democrats and the Republicans, and the cycling elections, and the contradiction of the confrontation between the left and right in American society, and the racial problems, the class struggle, and the relations of the tension between the business circle and the political circle. All these are the contradictions they could utilize. So in their eyes, or as they see it, United States is defeatable. It's how they see it. Well, we'll elaborate on this point later on, but I just want to tell you that contrary to most people's perception or to most people's belief, that Beijing thinks that they do stand a chance to defeat the United States, or even to bring down the United States altogether. But we'll leave this until later on. And I think I have used up all the time I have for today, so I think I'll just stop here. I just want you to know that, well, they do have their strategy, and so we have to be alert. We have to be very vigilant so that we can stand a better chance to defeat them in the end. Well, that's all I want to share with you today. I hope you liked today's program, and please share it with your friends, and please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also click the icon bell so that you can get the simultaneous notification. Okay, that's all for today, and I'll see you next time.